You are watching episode 5 of Befriending the Internet, the show where I answer questions from viewers and in fucking absurd depth. The show that I have, attempted to answer this first question I'm going to do before. I rambled for half an hour and then realized I was not recording. So, I probably won't go on for as long as I did that time, but I am still interested in answering the question. It's been a day since my last attempt, so we'll give it a go. This is from Lazy Ace Dia. I'm curious how your transition will affect your wardrobe. It seems to me that your clusterpunk style was created as a defense mechanism, or a good way to cope with a poor self-image. I'm not ugly, I'm just not trying to look good. Now that you're being more honest with yourself, how will that honesty be reflected in your clothing? Will you go for a highly feminized look, goth lolly, Okasan core, or will changes be more subtle? And while you're on the topic, could you talk about your history with fashion, what it meant to you in the past, and what it means today? So, the long story short of my fashion sense pretty much up until high school is that I had no fucking idea. I did not understand anything about fashion. I didn't understand my clothes. People constantly told me that my clothes did not match. I would come downstairs wearing clothes and my parents would be like, your clothes don't match. And I'd be like, what does that mean? And like kids at school would tell me my clothes don't match. I literally just didn't understand like what it means for clothes to match until finally at some point somebody told me like, well, it means that like they are the same color or that like, and so I was like, oh, like this was in like middle school, I think, when finally I understood at least that clothes have to be the same color and that's what makes them match, you know? But like when I was growing up, I just wore shirts of whatever I liked, you know, like pictures of things I like. So the first shirts I really remember having picked out were like, you know, my mom would take me to Old Navy or the Gap, like, you know, any whatever kind of like inexpensive family clothes stores at the mall. And, I would get like just Pokemon t-shirts and track pants. Like I hated jeans as a kid, never wore them. I never did any sports. I never played outside. I never understood that jeans like were a utility thing. For me, all that mattered was comfort. I was not going to wear anything I found uncomfortable. So like I hated jeans. I'm sure I wore them sometimes as a kid, but eventually I was pretty much just wearing track pants or like shorts. And so I want to say that in high school, when I went through my growth spurt, it just so happened that my family like was poor at the time when I turned 14. And so like right as I was going into needing new clothes, we could not afford to get any new clothes. So instead, I mostly started wearing my dad's clothes because we were about the same size. So he, had a whole lot of sweatpants and shit, which I thought were comfortable. So I started wearing my dad's sweatpants, and most of my t-shirts were like, my whole life I would wear comically oversized t-shirts. Like I would get like double XL shirts, and I just like to swim in my shirts. Like, me who's like the smallest, shrimpiest kid imaginable, wearing a double XL literally looks like I am wearing a dress, ironically enough. But yeah, I always liked open, flowy clothes. Like I liked stuff that was baggy and didn't touch my body too much because I just felt uncomfortable feeling the clothes on my body. Like I felt more comfortable if I feel as little like touch with the clothes as possible. So, at some point I started wearing pajama pants as well as fucking sweatpants. I don't remember how I got like my first pair or anything like that, but at some point my mom started just buying me pajama pants that she would find, like the Dr. Pepper ones and stuff like that. And so I started wearing pajama pants, sweatpants, and, just band t-shirts or character shirts throughout most of high school. Lots of anime shirts, stuff like that. Stuff I'd bought at conventions or at Hot Topic for the most part. So, like, like my my wardrobe was pretty static through late high school, and early college, or all of college, because I was only there for like a year. But like, when I like started like at first I was wearing like all black shirts basically in early high school. Then I got really into wearing like all white or all red, because initially I was all black because it was just like I don't want to talk to anybody or fuck with anybody. But then I decided I wanted to have like a more like like just like pure persona, like something like, oh, I'm trying to be like upbeat and happy. I realized that saying I wanted to be white and therefore pure is really funny, but like it was more the approach of like Andrew WK, who wears like white shirt and white jeans, and it's almost like he wants to be projected onto, like he is this blank slate onto which whatever happens that day can be can appear. I guess that like nature of it is what I liked about it. Is like I didn't feel like I felt like, I guess, in order for me to not be abrasive and pushing people away, I needed to view myself as just like a saintly figure who is just going to let everything pass, And so, like, I am the clean slate. But, like, in college, again, I started wearing a lot of red because I wanted to reincorporate the idea that, like, I did have some kind of passion or like personal identity. But then I ended up sliding back to white for a while, and then like once I like when Victor started developing his own style, it was because he started to realize that like, oh, the reason that like we don't like fitting shirts is because we always wore like cheap Gildan shirts and band shirts and all this stuff that just feels like shit if you get it at regular size and has bad cuts. So when he realized that like if you actually wear like nice clothes, like shirts that come from like stores and like other than Hot Topic, and have softer fabrics and stuff, then, they are comfortable. So once he made that discovery for me, I started wearing shirts that fit, and just making sure that every shirt I bought was like good fabric, nothing cheap and shitty, no Gildan, and that repaired my relationship with t-shirts in a way where I started buying lots of shirts again. But like, it was also partly because when I became a YouTuber, it was very easy to justify shirts as a purchase because it's both a tax write-off and like, a prop that I can use in the videos that like also signals the kind of shows I'm a fan of. And I try to get like the most out there, unique shirts that like nobody else has that, that represent my taste most accurately, So like, yeah, it's a lot of fun to buy cool anime shirts, but like, yeah, I mean, you're pretty on point that like that basic element of my aesthetic, like, the whole cluster punk thing of me like wearing ridiculous outfits. I mean, there was a time where I would go out wearing a robe a lot, or like a robe and a jacket on top of each other and just looking like very disheveled. Like, clusterpunk as a deliberate aesthetic of clashing like a bunch of crazy shit together and making it look cool is something that I do for videos or pictures. Like, I don't just dress clusterpunk and go out amid the streets. For the most part, I wear very casual attire. I wear like pajama pants, pajama shorts, and anime or band shirts. So as a woman, my options are vastly larger. And I definitely had a lot of insecurity over like the fact that, not only just not just like being overweight, but also like just, not truly believing that I could like pass as a woman had held me back for a long time, even though like I guess I just was like, I was thinking about women's fashion through the narrow lens of how it appears on like anime characters and Korean models, where like they're able to wear a lot of very simple clothes because of the fact that if you have a nice body, or even just if you're very thin, then it's kind of like everything looks good on you. Like, you don't have to complicate it with any amounts of, layering or or like frills or anything that like is meant to distract from your body. You are in fact trying to draw attention to your body because your body is what is appealing, But even if I had a nice body, I don't know if I would want to wear clothes that were like revealing or that, you know, showed off my body. Like, I am fairly like, you know, I'm not very like sexually open, even though I will talk about sex that I've had, and I will, you know, joke about sex or talk about how often I have sex. I do not like engage sexually with people outside the context of, you know, my relationship. I am in a committed relationship, you know, so like, and I don't feel comfortable like going beyond that or like talking about things more so than I have before, you know, but like, so I can't imagine myself like getting really like, let's say I got super thin and, you know, and had like a nice body. Like, I mean, sure, maybe I would wear something more revealing if I was going to the beach or, you know, in a context where like, okay, I want to look like, you know, not necessarily sexy, but like cute in a way that, you know, that isn't when you're wearing more clothes, I guess. But like, you know, as a somebody who's out and about, just like in town, you know, I don't want people to look at me as sexually attractive. Like, I know what it feels like to view people as sexually attractive, and I don't want to be viewed that way, you know? Like, I understand that there are people who do, and it's kind of baffling to me that there are people who, you know, like, don't want to be seen as sexy, but, you know, like, do dress in a way that like seems to only suggest that, you know, but like, I guess outfits can mean lots of different things to different people, and you shouldn't just make assumptions about like what somebody is trying to say with their outfit. But you know, I guess it's also a matter of like self-awareness about like you know, what the people around you are thinking, and you know, like whether it is right or not for them to think that way, just the acknowledgement that people do, you know? And so for me, it's like, that's what makes me uncomfortable, is the knowledge that like, you know, people are like, if I look attractive, like if I look as though I'm trying to look attractive, let me put it that way. Like, I mean, if I look attractive at all, people are going to have sexual thoughts about me. And if, you know, if I'm trying to be attractive, they will think that they are sort of allowed to. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is that like people have this conception of like, oh, you know, that girl's really hot, but like she's, you know, she's normal, so like I have some, you know, desire to, I don't know, I guess it's just like you don't feel as though you just could fuck that girl, you know? Like, oh, that girl wants to be seen as attractive because she is looking to attract someone who, you know, she can have sex with. And like, it might not be that she would just take anybody or is interested in you, you know, but like that, you know, she's hoping that somebody who finds her attractive, and who she also finds attractive, will reach out to her on the basis of her attractiveness. I don't want that to happen. You know, I don't want somebody to reach out to me on the basis of, hey, you look good, I want to fuck, you know? Like, I would prefer to have an aesthetic that signaled, you know, that, like, you know, signaled things about my personality, and, you know, I would want to look cute and good, like, aesthetically pleasing, but not, you know, sexually attractive, you know? So, like, in light of that, like, I do like some of the cute clothes, and, you know, some of the stuff that, like, you know, a lot of the anime characters that I'm a fan of, like a fan of their clothes specifically, are just, like, super skinny, cute girls who just wear, you know, outfits that I like. You know, it's more about the outfits than the girls themselves, or, like, having nice bodies in the first place. So I do like that kind of stuff, but, like, you know, for me, maybe if I do get to my target weight, I might wear stuff that's more like what this character in the game is wearing. You know, like, this is something that's like, okay, she's got a sleeveless jacket, you know, layers, and jeans. I probably wouldn't wear the jeans. I would probably wear, you know, probably honestly like a skirt or something, but like maybe just like more flowing pants, or like even if they were going to be jeans, maybe like bell bottom jeans or something. But like the sleeveless jacket and shirt combo I definitely would wear, but like I would want to be about the same size as this character to wear this outfit, whereas like, you know, the way that I look now, I would prefer to wear something not sleeveless, because I would not want to show my arms, because I would probably feel insecure. Is that bad? Is that bad that I would feel insecure about my arms? Possibly. Maybe I shouldn't. But at the same time, I don't have to, because I can just wear clothes that don't show my arms, you know? And I also like the idea of, you know, wearing more and therefore being like more comforted by it, more secure, just generally feeling, you know, like I want to wear clothes that are inviting, but like I don't want my body to be the invitation. You know what I mean? It's like I want you to feel like I'm approachable and cute, but not because I want to have sex with you. You know, I'm approachable and cute because I want to be friendly and, you know, nice and respectable. So, yeah. So, more of the clothes I've been buying have been more stuff in the line of dresses, skirts, you know, cardigans. I really want to wear, like, I really like the idea of, like, wearing, just like those really light, flowy, like almost like cardigans, but that are just like a shawl almost, you know? Like I like the idea of just having like a shawl or a shroud, some kind of just flowy fabric that follows around me, you know? I've been big into sort of seeing myself as like a hippie witch, you know, somewhere between the witch aesthetic and the hippie aesthetic, some kind of soft goth or pastel goth, elements of all that. So like, and I still want to preserve the clusterpunk idea as well. Like clusterpunk is, if anything, easier to accomplish with women's clothes, because like part of my anger and jealousy towards men's or, you know, yeah, my anger towards men's clothes and jealousy for women's clothes is partially out of the fact that it's easier to achieve clusterpunk with women's clothes. Like, there is way more experimental shit that you can wear, way more weird, interesting, kooky, bizarre color combinations. Like, men's clothes is just boring, and women's clothes is not. So, oh. I didn't even realize that magnifying glass would make me small. So yeah, I'd say that's an effective answer to that question, and it didn't take quite as long as the first time, and it was probably better than the first time. Glad I found the energy to answer it again. Alright, this next question comes from D. Hi Digi, longtime follower, first time contacting you. Sorry if you already responded to a similar comment. I'm really liking these podcasts, but they come out a little faster than I'm able to make time for them. I guess I'd like to see... or like to ask what advice would you would give me so I can start really looking at myself, see the kind of person I am inside, that kind of stuff. You seem really good at understanding people, but I've always had trouble understanding anyone, including myself. I've never had a strong sense of identity, and I wouldn't be able to describe how my personality is. I usually don't care too much about this, but since I realized that I'm probably not cis and started questioning my gender, it feels like a necessity. I've always kind of wanted to be a girl, both biologically and socially, even though these thoughts were never really serious until about a year ago when I realized I actually could be one. However, saying that I'm a girl feels like a lie. I don't really feel like I'm male or female in the first place. I'm not even sure whatever that means, but unlike you, I feel like the person I currently am is more similar to other men than to other women, and I find it harder to relate to women as well. It could just be the result of 20 years of being treated as male and lacking interaction with girls my age and a positive female maternal figure, but it makes me feel like I could never be a normal girl, and that bums me out. I've been presenting female on the internet, but when my friends call me she sometimes, I cringe at myself for trying to go outside my assigned gender role, so that didn't help figuring things out. I'm worrying whether this might mean that I'm really a man or it's just imposter syndrome. So I figured if I could look at myself with the depth of people like you do, then I could figure this mess out. Although I don't want to learn this skill just for the gender stuff, but it's what's been on my mind the most lately. It definitely sounds to me like a case of imposter syndrome, because like the fact that you were having even strong enough thoughts to like, you know, like act as a woman in your interactions online, you know, it seems like it was pretty important as something for you to explore. Not to say that like you couldn't explore that and then come to the conclusion that you are in fact still a guy, but like for me growing up, like I looked like a girl. People accused me of being a girl. I didn't understand why beyond the long hair. I didn't think that any of my other actions were necessarily effeminate because I did not talk to girls. I had very little female contact. My mom does not act the same way as other girls, and even though she was a huge role model for me, she was not interested in anything feminine, you know, and like she had kind of been an outcast among girls. I think she just had more negative female social interactions than positive, and I think most of her friends were guys growing up, you know? So like for me, you know, I did not have any real like sense of like, okay, here's how women behave versus here's how men behave. I just, in retrospect, like looking at my behavior now that I do understand women, see how, if not a more feminine experience, at the very least, it was not a very masculine experience, you know, like, just nothing that, I had a really difficult time relating to boys, and most of the boys that I did end up being friends with, as I've said before, turned out to be gay or trans in the long run. So it's really hard for me to even say that like I connected with anybody. Like I didn't connect with girls because I avoided them. I didn't connect with boys because I, you know, like the only boys I could connect with were other outsiders who were on the, you know, who were some form of LGBT as well, you know, who had the same interests I did because we are all looking for the same things out of it, you know? So like, to me, like the fact that you are enough of a fan of my content to watch Befriending the Internet is like a pretty big flag in and of itself, that like gender identity questions are probably something that you've dealt with. But how do you figure out where questions begin and end and where actual gender performance, you know, arises? Like, I mean, ultimately, if you feel like you want to be seen as a girl, just have people start calling you a girl. Like, don't change any of your behaviors. Don't change your, you know, you don't have to go on HRT if you think that you're a woman. If you think that you would be most satisfied being recognized as a woman, then you should encourage the people around you to, you know, address you in the way that it makes you the happiest to be recognized. And, you know, for me at least, the more people address me as a woman, the more confident I feel about it, and the more I am capable of performing the set of emotions that I had been sort of repressing in order to feel more masculine, you know, like whatever set of inclinations or, you know, natural emotional responses that I would suppress. And it's not that I don't suppress anything anymore, but there's a difference. And I thought about making a separate point about this, but I'll just talk about it here, about repression versus suppression. And I think that I am somebody who, in my, you know, I don't know what I may have repressed. Like, you know, if there's something that I have repressed still, then I won't find out, you know, until I stop repressing it, you know, like, but suppression is when you know that something is true about you, but you are deliberately ignoring it. You are suppressing it. You are trying to pretend that it is not the case. And when you suppress something for long enough, it can eventually become repression. And so that I think that for me, there are a lot of habits that I used to just indulge in when I was younger because I did not consider them gendered habits. But once I was shamed out of them, and some habits you deserve to be shamed out of as they are socially unacceptable, or just you're just a fucking annoying, which in my case I can be very fucking annoying, so like I've learned what of my habits are like autistic and obnoxious and should not, should be avoided. But like, that is something I had to learn. While yes, like you might be feeling as though like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to be a man or a woman, and like I feel as though I've always wanted to be a woman, but I don't necessarily know if I like truly behave like one or if I would feel better changing gender. It's just like, start living your life as though you were a woman. Like your conception of whatever you think it would be different. Whatever you think would be different if you were to be identified as a woman instead of a man. Just do that and see how that makes you feel. Because that's sort of the approach I've been taking, is like, again, like whatever it is that I was suppressing, don't suppress it. Just let it happen. Just let it come out of you, And the more I've done that, the more I have felt, in touch with myself and in touch with my gender, because I feel like, these performances that I at least register as feminine are closer to my natural state, more representative of how I feel inside. And, they are, traits that are just, not just that they're considered, it's not the fact that they're considered feminine by society that makes me able to justify considering myself a woman. It's just the fact that that's how I want to be seen. That like, that's what makes me happy. That's what I think makes it easiest to communicate with me. That's what makes me feel in tune with my intentions, and like people being able to refer to me that way is how I know that I can sort of trust them to some degree, that like, these people care enough about me to recognize that regardless of what I happen to look like, this is how I feel and this is how I want to be seen, and that can be a powerful feeling to get that vibe off of somebody, like, yeah, this person's acknowledging my needs, so, they respect me, and therefore we can be friends. So yeah, I guess that's the best advice that I can manage based on my experiences so far. King Deme, or King Dem, says, have you ever considered that maybe weed could be causing a hormonal imbalance in your brain and you don't even realize? Not saying that it is the case, but given that you are constantly under the effects of marijuana, maybe it is affecting you at least at a level you don't realize. To which For the Lemon responds, that's not a thing, ahaha. Yeah, I mean, it's not a thing, but funnily enough, I sometimes feel like more masculine and more lexical when I'm high. I shouldn't even say more masculine, because like I've just associated lexicality with masculinity for a long time, because it is the means by which I have approached masculinity, that like shutting out my emotions and relying on logic is how I avoided my feminine thoughts. I am a woman, no matter what kind of mode of thought I'm in, be it more impressionistic or lexical, it's still me. It's still my feelings as a woman. But like, nonetheless, when I am high, I am less reliant on my emotions and my moods as a way of getting through the day, and more reliant on thinking, more reliant on translating what I am looking at and interpreting it. And that's why, in my opinion, my analysis got much better after I started smoking, because it was like I legitimately could interpret things more. It was like when I normally watch something like I strain to pay attention to everything at once and simultaneously think of words to describe what I'm seeing. It's like the thinking distracts me from continuing to pay attention, and trying to do both at once is hard. When I'm high, it's not a struggle to do both of those things at the same time. So I can interpret things much more quickly and more robustly. And through doing that when I was high, I learned better how to do it when sober. Like, I figured out, it's like, you know, applying the mindset that I had when I was high to just watching things in general, you know, got me to a sort of level of understanding where I no longer needed the drug to replicate the effect. Now I smoke sour to deal with the paranoia that they charge by the hour, as Killer Mike said. You know, I'm paranoid as shit, and dealing with lots of trauma and trying to, you know, recover mentally and you know, assess who I want to be, and fucking, you know, finally admit lots of things to myself that I've been holding back for a long time. So, yeah, I'm smoking a lot of weed right now, but, you know, I take breaks, and when I take those breaks, I feel even more sensitive and emotional and effeminate, and, you know, more similar to how I did before I became a workaholic, which is what I did. I became more of a workaholic when I started smoking. It really depends on the weed, of course. Like, if I smoke sativas, it's more like, I should say that when I smoke like hardcore indicas, I actually become even more emotional. I become like real new type mode. Like, the last 2 batches of weed that I got, I definitely was not doing very much work because I was in an extremely emotional mindset, which was good. It was very cathartic and enjoyable to experience that level of emotion, but it was not good for getting stuff done. The weed I'm on right now, which is definitely a sativa, is the opposite. It's like, get shit done weed. Let's record videos all fucking day. Let's make a deluge, you know. Anyway, yeah, I thought this would be a funny comment to, like, give a sincere answer to, even though it's not really a very sincere comment in the first place, I don't think. But, you know, here on the Digi Nay Show, we always try to be sincere as much as we can. This game has really nice music and an interesting atmosphere. It's kind of like a Metroidvania exploration game. There's no combat, so it's just like, I guess there's kind of a puzzle element to it in that you have to like find your way around, and there's a lot of fucking Lost Woods shit, like this shit that's going on right now. But you know, it's pretty cute. I like the girl. I like her blue hair. She kind of looks like Alan B. Beardsley from G Gundam. Who is absolutely waifu tier. I think I forgot to put her on my list of characters that I would want to be romantically involved with in my video about that. But she would absolutely be on that list, my friend do, because Alan B is god tier. And I guess this girl would be on the list too, because she cute. I'm going to split this into multiple episodes, even though I'm still answering questions from parts 1, 2, 3, and 4, because of the fact that I have not been limiting myself to just answering questions on the previous episode. Every single time, I read all the comments now. You know, I've gone back to the state of life of reading all comments, so, you know, there are questions here from every episode. There's no real sense in like waiting, like making sure I cover every single question before I post any of them. So, you know, this one will happen, and then there'll be another one with even more of the questions from the first 4 episodes, and then there'll be another one with even more of the questions from the first 4 episodes, until I am sick of those questions. But, you know, I have to take my breaks so I can smoke my weed and eat my snacks, and this is one of those breaks. And also switch games, because this one, fun as it is, getting a little bit tedious.